hit like and subscribe. You're watching the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel.
Good morning, family. How are you? Welcome to Ascending. I am your very happy, excited host, April R. Silver. You are watching episode 36 of Ascending. I thank you so much for being here. We want to definitely welcome all of our loyal viewers. We want to welcome the new viewers. We want everybody to buckle up. It's going to be an amazing show. And we might have some tech issues. I'm saying it now. We might. So I'm not calling anything into existence, but everything that we went through backstage a moment ago tells me to say that we might. So buckle up, because it's still going to be an amazing show anyway. Thank you to the Marc Lamont Hill official team members. Thank you to my team, Drake, Aaron, Kevin, and Sandy. I would definitely want to shout them out because they're doing amazing work just from the heart. So we definitely want to thank them. We want to thank you. Remember, family, you know how we do. If you are watching on Marc Lamont Hill's Twitter channel, thank you for your eyeballs. But your support would mean a lot, and it would be demonstrated if you switch over from Twitter and go to Marc Lamont Hill Official on YouTube. That's how you tangibly and practically support this Black independent channel. So thank you, period. But do us an extra favor and switch over from Twitter to Marc Lamont Hill Official on YouTube. So as you buckle up, as you get ready, as you tell your people for this amazing show that's about to happen, tell us from where you are ascending. I'm so happy. For those who are new and don't know, we have people watching all over the world. Yes, New York. Yes, LA. Yes, everything, every place in between, but literally all over the world. So I want to see in the comments, are we having people from Cairo today? Are we having people from England today, like we have in the past? Tell us from where you are ascending. And if you're from Brooklyn, you got to definitely say that. So it looks like we have a little bit of a glitch, which is what I anticipated. Let me see, family. I'm going to see, because this is live. Y'all know this is live. So I'm going to come out and come back in. And then we're going to introduce, after I come back, we're going to introduce our esteemed guests and we get into our segment. So just hold on, family, 1 second. Let's just see. Okay. So somebody give me an audible if you can hear me.
You're good. You're back on.
Okay. See, I wasn't calling it into existence, but I knew we had a whole bunch of problems coming in. But I came back and I'm looking in the chat, and Rolando's here. Cynthia Rose is here from, I think, the Bay Areas. I know Cali on the West Coast. Welcome, Cynthia Rose. Welcome, Rolando. We got Las Vegas in the house. We got all of our regulars. So we thank you. Thank you. So let's just jump right in. So good to see you. Cynthia always watches typically after the show, like on Sunday or whatever, but she's here live. So we're really happy about that. So let's just jump into our segments, right? Before we bring on our very esteemed guests. We want to do bookmark, because we always do bookmark, and it kind of stands to reason with the poet and writer and journalist and amazing human being that's coming to the show that our bookmark is going to be double. And the first bookmark that we want to share is Grocery Shopping with My Mother by Kevin Powell. We know that every week we shout out a Black author. Typically it's the books that I've read. Every once in a while, it's a book that I'm about to read, but we want you to know about this book. This is Kevin Powell's Return to Poetry. Came out in 2022. So that's the first bookmark. Go ahead and get that copy if you don't already have it. And then we're going to do yet another bookmark, because this person is the author of 16 books. So the bookmark number 2 is the Kevin Powell Reader, The Essential Writings and Conversations, or Essential Writings and Conversations by Kevin Powell. So this is the front cover on the left and the back cover on the right. No, I said that wrong. The front cover is on the right. The back cover is on the left of the picture that you see. This came out in 2023, so we definitely want people to get this book. This is 2 out of 16 books. We're going to talk about all of that. Now, you know how we do. After we do bookmark, we do bookmark reminder. The bookmark reminder is get your book at a Black-owned bookstore. A progressive bookstore, an indie bookstore, yes, that's great. We would love it extra because we always shout out Black institutions. If you get it from a Black-owned bookstore, including maybe consider, yes, right, Uncle Bobby's, founded by Marc Lamont Hill in 2017. It is a brick and mortar building in Philadelphia, again, founded in 2017 by the channel owner. That's our reminder. Every week, we want you to go ahead and do that. So on that note, our next segment, as you know, is Black Media Shout Out. The Black Media Shout Out for this week is Cave Canem. Cave Canem is the leading literary organization committed to cultivating the artistic and professional growth of poets in the African diaspora. We are shouting out Cave Canem because our special guest, coming on in just a moment, is a poet. What better way than to make the alignment as perfect as can be? For those who are listening and not watching, Cave Canem is the organization I just referenced, and the website, for those who are listening and not watching, CAVECANEM Poets, cavecanempoets.org. It's important that this community here, if you don't already know about Cave Canem, because it's a major, powerful, sturdy, enduring, inspirational organization that caters to Black poets. For those who are listening and not watching, the screen says that Cave Canem is a nonprofit organization committed to cultivating the artistic and professional growth of Black poets. Their offices are based here in New York. I love the organization. I know many of the people there. Let me just show one more thing that I thought was important, just so you can see how the outside literary world views this nonprofit organization. The National Book Critics Circle said about Cave Canem, no, and I quote, "No institution has played such a definitive role in shaping the poetry of the 21st century. Cave Canem consistently represents the best that the literary world has to offer." Again, the website is cavecanempoets.org. Check it out. If you're an aspiring poet, a seasoned poet, amazing supportive institution that we want to shout out here on Ascending, which, as you know, is every week live on the Marc Lamont Hill official channel. So now our other segment, a little bit funny. Let me take that. Let's see. This in memoriam, you know, every week we started this new segment quite several, I guess it was over the summer, where we pay homage to the spirit of those who have passed on. Last week, of course, we can't say enough about Assata Shakur. That was our in memoriam last week. But this week is a little bit tongue-in-cheek. The root is in memoriam, is the subject of the in memoriam subject. But hear me out. The death of Root, being a non-Black owned media company, is why the Root, the digital media company, is the highlight of this memoriam. Yes, it was announced just yesterday, Friday, October 3rd, officially, that the Root is no longer a Black owned, is no longer a non-Black owned media company. To say that even better, Ashley Allison, a Black woman, is officially the publisher of The Root, i.e. theroot.com. Ashley Allison is a CNN commentator and a former Obama Biden White House administration official. She acquired the root through her company, Watering Hole Media, in October 2025, which very specifically, just yesterday, it was publicly announced. I want you all to go to theroot.com, look at the articles that are there, her commentary. Her love for Black folks and building institution is evident. It's dripping in her statement to the press about this. I wanted to grab a picture. Kevin and Aaron, if you all find the picture of Ashley Allison, let's come back to this in the end. For those who might not know, I have had a woman crush on Ashley. Sorry, for a minute. Every time I see her face, I am mesmerized. Not just her face and her beauty, but her intelligence. I've watched CNN for a number of years. You got to see how dope this woman is. And the fact that she is now the owner of The Root is a flex. Just as a reminder for those who don't know, The Root was founded in 2008 by historian Henry Louis Gates Jr. and the former Washington Post publisher Donald E. Graham. Again, go to theroot.com, read the full statement. But The Root started off as Black owned, then it changed hands and it was owned by Univision and somebody else, and now it's official. The death of The Root being a non-Black media outlet is what we're celebrating today. So that's my little tongue-in-cheek. Yes, there we go, because my producers are dope. I was looking for that picture, and then there's another picture where it's darker, so I'm just going to take full advantage. I'm back. I'm coming back. Yes. The devil is a liar. We are not having any glitches today. Not anymore. So I think we are just about at the space where I want to welcome, and we're going to put this banner up. Let's welcome Grammy-nominated poet, writer, filmmaker, and humanitarian Kevin Powell. There you are. How you doing? I think you are on mute, my friend. Let's see if the producers can unmute you or you unmute yourself. Let's see how that goes. No? Let's see. Guys, do we have...
It's not on mute on our end, April.
Okay, Kevin, on our platform, it says that you are not on mute. So is your computer mic on? Maybe it is. Okay. Say testing, say ascending is great, say something. Kevin? Okay. Oh, there we are.
Yeah,
yes, we can.
It was on my iPhone for some reason.
That's good. Okay. How you doing, fam? How you doing?
Great. I'm good. Great to be here.
Good to see
Thank you so much. Congratulations. I love this.
Thank you. You have 50 million things to do always. So the fact that you are here with us this Saturday morning, we appreciate it. We thank you because I know you so well, and there's literally 50 million other things you could be doing. So thank you.
It's all sports. I gotta watch baseball later. That's what I gotta do. That's my day.
That's your day, right? Well, Yankees. Yes, definitely. It was really hard to figure out, like, at what is the point of entry. I am so happy to say we go back decades. Mm-hmm. We have done so much work together. We first met when we were college students, for sure. And since then, we've done countless initiatives, projects, campaigns, amazing healing conversations as friends and then as colleagues and comrades. So let's just start maybe with the most current thing and maybe go backwards, right?
Okay.
Let's maybe try to do that. We could talk forever, but we're going to keep it short today. But let's talk about first your film. The title that we put out in the world, or the subject heading or description for this conversation, was Kevin Powell on When We Free the World, a bold vision for humanity. Of course, When We Free the World was a nod to the film that you just released in January. First full-length film. So let's start there. Tell us about the film, which I watched and I loved. It
Oh,
was
well,
absolutely amazing. So tell us about that.
I mean, first of all, thank you. Thank Brother Marc Lamont Hill. Thank Brother Drake, Sandra, the entire team. I just appreciate the opportunity and thank y'all so much. It's my honor to be here. I mean, you know, I'm sitting here, April, literally before I got on the call with you. We're on our way to Columbus, Ohio, and Minnesota, and Delaware, and I can't remember where else this month. But we've been touring with this film since January. It's part of my life work, you know, to empower Black people and certainly to empower and have conversations with Black males. You know, since my days in college, we had a group called 100 Black Men, just like you'll have Black Neo Force at Howard, you know, and our organization was one of the first places that I started thinking about what does it mean to be a man? You know, a lot of us didn't know whether we had fathers or not. I didn't have a father in my life, and college was the place that I figured a lot of stuff out. You know, I wish I had gone to HBCU like Howard or Medgar Evers, you know, your T-shirt, but I didn't even know they existed at the time. But what I did get from going to Rutgers, because of all the work our elders had done, was an amazing Black Studies department, amazing African Studies department. So I was able to absorb so much history. And, you know, literally When We Free the World as a film, it's just a culmination of the writing and the activism together. I just decided to go to a different medium. I'm proud of the books. But I just, you know, I think that more people are likely to watch stuff. We see it with TikTok and YouTube, like y'all are on YouTube, you know what I'm saying? You know, people are more likely to watch stuff than read stuff. I want people to read. God knows I want people to read. I will always advocate for reading. I've been reading voraciously since I was a kid because of my mother pushing me to take words seriously. That's why I'm a writer. But the film is really it's I didn't want to have a whole bunch of so-called famous brothers, celebrity brothers in it. 70 Black male voices from teenagers to 90-something years old. A few of the elders have passed since the film, somewhere in the last year or so, you know, including our Dr. Jerry Ward. But we wanted to create something that really was going to, we hope, speak to a cross-section of Black males, you know, no matter what their identities are. There's straight brothers, queer brothers, trans brothers, disabled brothers. There's brothers who are formerly incarcerated. We got 12 brothers in the film with PhDs, which you rarely ever see. And that was intentional, to put doctor in front of their names because they earned that. You know, we wanted to show Black men as the whole human beings we are. That's why we created the film, and not just to talk about racism and not just to re-traumatize us over and over again, but to say, hey, a lot of the solutions that we have are actually in our own stories if we just share and talk with each other. Dr. Steve Jackson says throughout the film that Black men got to talk. That's what the film is about. We got to talk.
Yeah. I'm sorry, let me come back on screen, guys. You all can put me back on. But I wanted to,
I was like, where did she go? There you are.
oh no, I forgot to say we go in and out because
Okay.
as we chop this up, or when we do, we want to have something where it's just you know, or
Okay.
just a guest going in. So I'm still here.
All right. No
I'm
doubt.
still here. You and your team and you know, did an amazing feat, you know, with this documentary, because everything you said is pouring out in the film. The love that you have in the Black male voices and the respect for Black male voices is super, super evident. And it's visually stunning. It's visually stunning. It's poetic. It's unconventional in that way, which is why I love it. But tell us about that journey. That was not an easy journey. I happen to know firsthand it was not an easy journey.
No, I mean, first of all, the initial inspiration came for me from don't laugh, but Beyonce's Lemonade film. When that came out about 10 years ago, I just remember all the marketing for it and this excitement around Black women around the country. Like, yo, I was like, well, what's Lemonade? Then I watched it and I was just blown away by her use of poetry, the great African sister poet whose name is escaping me right now, the visuals in the film, and then the music. And I said, well, I want to do something like that for Black males, because I mean, as someone who's a lifelong hip hop head, who's a huge sports fan, who religiously watches like all kinds of, not just the sporting events themselves, but like the bumpers, the advertisements for sports. And then I grew up playing video games. And so I thought about how we watch stuff in these times, and then obviously Instagram, social media, these quick cuts and stuff like that. Then I'm also a product, as you know, of MTV. MTV's The Real World, and I was at Vibe magazine, and I was like, if we're going to do something that's heavy, I need it to be visually striking, so that it's not going to just be, I hate to say it, like a lot of documents that we see, that it's just kind of just like, here it is, people just talking, there's no special effects, the music is kind of generic. Like, we're like, nah, let's pull it all together. I mean, I will say now, I echo what Byron Hurt said about his first film that y'all have been pushing on GATHR beautifully for the last few weeks. And God bless Byron Hurt, who's also in this film, is that, I didn't know exactly what I was doing when I started 6 years ago, but I figured it out along the way. You know what I mean? I just knew I wanted special effects. I wanted music. I wanted dope editing. And I knew I wanted to have the artwork of my late brother, Radcliffe Bailey, to open up every chapter, and I know I wanted to have and it couldn't just be New York heads. It had to be brothers from all over the country. And we literally have brothers from the East Coast, West Coast, down South, Midwest in the film. And I knew, like, we had people saying to us, Kev, I'll give you money if you put a so-called A-list celebrity in. And they would throw out names that I'm not going to say here. But I was like, nah, I'm good, because you know what? A lot of times when we've seen, what else went into my process, April, is that I watched and rewatched a ton of documentaries about Black males historically, going way back decades. Most of them reduce us to a few things: only being victims of racism, only talking about racism, only as athletes or entertainers. And I'm like, yo, no, you know what I mean? I'm a, like you said, I'm a Grammy-nominated poet. Clearly, I love music and entertainment, pop culture. I'm definitely a sports fan, but I'm like, can we show Black men without having to frame it inside of entertainment and sports for once? That went into it a lot of the thinking for us. And also, as anyone who has seen the film, this film wouldn't exist without Black women. You, my wife Evangeline, who's the co-producer, co-writer of the film, a number of Sister Cynical, my Bayesian sister, early producer of the film, who made some of the early stuff happen with it. And so, we also know that we wanted to make sure that as we were talking about all these different things with Black men, we did not ignore the stories and treatment of sisters in certain ways. Like when Ras Baraka talks about his sister SHANI, for example, that was very important to include in the film. I was at SHANI's funeral, and I was just like, man, and Ras gave us the story, and I think it was very powerful how he related. And so it was all those things that went into this to try to put this together. And then the hardest part was the money. There's so many times we had this, people don't understand, when you're an independent filmmaker, independent artist, period, there's a lot of starting something and then having to stop and go raise money. Man, April, people asked us why the credits are so long, because we wanted to thank as many people as possible. The $1 donations, $3 donations, $5 donations. We got support from foundations. We had some people who just, I don't want to say their names, but there's some people who gave $1,000, $5,000 along these 6 years. And it saved us in so many ways, because in learning how to make a film, that means I also wasted a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? I made a lot of mistakes.
And the credits, the credits really were long. They really, really were long, but I appreciated why. You understand what I'm saying? It was clear that you all, as a team, under your leadership, did not want to leave anybody out. And that is deeply, deeply, it's outstanding. It's outstanding. And I grew up from a child always reading the credits. And liner notes, right? For albums. So it's appreciated, right? Definitely. But outside of what was tell us the status of the film now, right? Because I know people are like, yo, when is it coming to Netflix? When is it this, that, and the other? And I know you have a whole strategy. We've talked about this, but what's the status of the film in terms of people being able to see it themselves?
Invite us to your communities. I mean, that's what Columbus, Ohio has done. We literally have been, Dayton, Ohio, Columbus, Ohio. We're going to Twin Cities in a couple, literally on Tuesday, we'll be in Minnesota, Minneapolis, St. Paul. Invite us. We purposely decided to, you talked about history at the beginning, which I really love, and you always acknowledge our ancestors. In the spirit of Melvin Van Peebles and Oscar Micheaux, I was thinking, and Langston Hughes, actually, I'll explain. So during the 1930s, during the Great Depression, when it hit, Langston Hughes didn't even know how to drive a car, but he hired a driver, and he literally drove around the country with his poetry, with his books, and sold his books out of the trunk of a car. Sound familiar to hip hop heads, because that's what we did with hip hop, with cassettes and CDs back in the day. And some people still are doing that, you know what I'm saying? And so that was that. And then how Oscar Micheaux would take his films around the country, how Melvin Van Peebles, when he put out Sweet Sweetback's Badass Song, I interviewed Melvin in the late 1990s. He said, I just decided to take the film to Detroit, to Chicago, take it to the people. And so I said, man, let's just remix that and let's do that with this film. Plus, it is a way to help us honestly pay off some of the massive debt that we accumulated from the film. I mean, that's real. I mean, filmmaking, I will never hate on books, because I'm working on a poetry book right now. I'm sure we'll get to that. It's hard to do a book. You know, April, you've published books. It's hard to do a book, but doing a film is a level, a humbling level I can't even explain. a feature-length film. I mean, man. So, you know, it could be on. We could literally put it on Amazon and other places right now. It's just a click of a button. It's just like when you're an independent music artist, you can put it on streaming platforms. Like my album. The album that got nominated for the Grammy, Grocery Shopping with My Mother, we just clicked the button. It was on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, everywhere instant. I was like, yo, this is dope. We decided not to put it on streaming yet. We decided we wanted to engage people. And it's been rich, April. It's been so invaluable to be in Oregon, to be in California, to be in Ohio, you know, these different places, and having these.
And you just did Atlanta, right? You just did Atlanta.
Shout out to the BRONX Film Festival in Atlanta, the Black Film Festival in Atlanta. That was our first film festival, which was an important experience for us to have. We'll be at the Diamond State Black Film Festival on November 6th, which is Delaware's Black Film Festival in Wilmington. And so we're doing a few festivals. We'll do a few more next year, you know. But the thing is just really been a community piece. And out of it, it's not just a film. It's a soundtrack created by my brother, Vidal Davis, who's a multi-Grammy-nominated producer who has worked through the years with Mary J. Blige, Lauryn Hill.
It was excellent.
So many people. That's Vidal, you know, shout out to Eric Roberson, Howard alumni, who wrote the closing credit song, I'm a Man. He wrote that song. You know, all I did was say to Eric, we need a song that's going to capture the spirit of the famous I'm a Man photos from the 1960s of Dr. King's last march in Memphis. And that's what he did. And the whole soundtrack, Black males, Eric Roberson, Rashawn Patterson, Raheem Vaughn, Bilal's on the soundtrack, you know, some new voices like Keydron Bryan is on there. And it's important to say, this is the first all black male soundtrack since Jason's Lyric in 1994, April. There has not been a all black male soundtrack.
I knew that one.
30 years. And so we're working to get the soundtrack out, the film out. Both will be out. And I'm directing the 2 music videos. We're going to do videos for the opening song of the film and the closing song for the film. There's a study guide that's completed by educators that we're going to get into school systems and into folks who are nonprofit, et cetera. There's a website called whenwefreetheworld.org that will go live in the early part of 26 as well. What we decided to use 25 for, especially with all the craziness happening in the country, let's just focus on touring with the film and getting people's reactions, feedback to the film. What did we get right? What did we get wrong? We don't think it's a perfect film, but we do feel it's a film that is providing a space for necessary conversations for Black men and boys. That's what we wanted to create. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of seed planting sounds like, you know, going across the country. You and your wife, and in the context of this film, a producer and writer. So I want to shout out to Evangeline. I just want to shout her out.
Thank you.
Because
she's dope.
She's dope. She's dope. So just let me ask a personal question. How was it working as a team, as intelligent people who love Black culture, Blackity Black, and then you are life partners as well?
There were moments where we didn't talk. it was because it's intense, but you know, like you, she has a profound love for Black people and for Black males, you know what I mean, in spite of her own experiences with Black males, like a lot of sisters, unfortunately, have had, my mother included, you know what I mean? But she wanted this, she thought about her father, she thought about her own only brother, and she thought about the Black males she's encountered. So she thought this film was important. Evangeline is so tremendously organized. I'm very artsy, which means I'm in my head, and my head is all over the place. And what she brought to the table was a level of organization as we developed the script, you know, how we navigated the construction of the film. I had the idea of the chapters, the 9 chapters, but she helped to winnow it down because we couldn't put it. I mean, one early version of the film was probably about 4 hours, and any filmmaker knows what I'm talking about. You know, you're going to have a long, like, I got all of this. What do I do with all of this now? And she was able to help me as writer to writer, sitting eyeball to eyeball to get it down, and let's tighten this thing up. And so that was invaluable. And also just being a go-between. And I got to shout out our post-production team was amazing. You talked about the visual look of it. That's our editor, James Austin, That's our special effects person, motion designer, Justin Herman. There's so many people that were involved, but they really brought it home. And Evangeline also has photos throughout the film, like the photo that you showed, the poster image for the film. That's her. All the images in the closing credits from all the entire closing credits, all of those are her photos. That's all her work. And so even her photography is displayed in the film. But it was a lot. We learned a lot about how we can and cannot use images that are in the public domain. We figured out creative ways not to license stuff that we had to pay for. We had an amazing legal team that helped us the whole way. And so it was
Lisa Davis, true. Right? That was Lisa Davis?
No. This is a different law firm. But okay. I do work with Lisa. I do work with Lisa. And
okay, I saw her name in the credits. Yeah.
Well, they yes, because anyone that gave us advice, they're in the credits.
That's what I love. That's what I love about how your heart is,
Man, I still have it in my phone, April. My notes, literally 6 years of notes, like here are the people who helped the film. I started this list early on because I knew it was gonna, and I watch credits like you do, and I just think it's important to acknowledge people. I mean, I love. And think about it, I worked on the album that got nominated for the Grammy and this film at the same time. And I love writing books, but working on the album and working on this film has done for me, it made me realize how much I prefer working in community with people and the collaborative stuff. I prefer that because, man, you know, April, writing is a solitary thing by yourself. And I love it, but I think that's probably why I came back to poetry too, because I don't have to sit here for days and days in isolation. I can do short poems. I got my poem done for the day, whereas I'm writing a book that's 200-300 pages, man, you got to disappear. And I'm not really with that anymore. So I'm just trying to get to 20 books and call it a day. That's the goal now, to get to 20 and just make films and make the poetry with music. That's all I want to do going forward. You know what I mean?
Well, you're at 16, my friend.
Yeah.
You're at 16, and that's a big deal. Your first book was 1995, recognized your first book of poetry. So that's a long time ago, and since then you are at 16. And now you've returned, right? When you return to poetry in the commercial space, the book gets nominated for. You turn the book into a spoken word album that gets nominated for a Grammy. Talk about that.
I was scared. I was scared to come back to poetry because it had been so long. But things like George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, the summer of 2020. This administration that's here now was in the White House back then, and I started writing poems again because I started feeling like I felt during the Reagan Bush years when we were in college back in the day, like this, and that's when I wrote a lot of poetry, coming because I was reacting to that. I was very influenced by KRS-One and Chuck D and a lot of our rappers of that time, and so I was just. I had discovered the Last Poets and folks like Nikki Giovanni, rest in peace to her, and Maya, obviously Angelou. And then you see brother Mary Baraka was one of my great heroes, and Sonia Sanchez, one of my great sheroes. And so I said, I need to come back to that. Like, Kev, you can't abandon your poetry voice. And then also I knew that I didn't want to go back to being a full-time journalist. It's just not my bag, man. One thing I did get from working in a film is how much I love being an artist. And and a lot of people don't know this, April, when I moved from New Jersey to New York back in the 90s, it was to be a poet full-time and to be a playwright, not to be a journalist. I knew journalism was like to make some money. I didn't think it was going to turn into a career, but it did because of vibe. But like, I'm an artist, man. I'm an artist. I'm that person. And so coming back to poetry was wonderful. And it was bittersweet. The day I got nominated for the Grammy in November of 23 was the same day that I went to say goodbye to my friend Radcliffe Bailey because he was dying of a brain tumor in Atlanta. So I literally got off the plane in Atlanta from New York to pay my respects to him. Jessica Care Moore and other creative people were passing through that same day. They're like, Kev, you got nominated for the Grammy. I was like, word. And then it was so deep, man. I haven't really talked about that, I realized, in public, but it's up here. So it's a lot of things, but at least I got to pay homage to Radcliffe with the film. And I'm excited. I've been quietly, I'll say it to you, April, I've been quietly working on the new poetry book and the new album for the last year and some change. I haven't talked about it anywhere, but we've been grinding, man. And for the first time, I'm actually writing the poetry book and making the album at the same time. The first time I grocery shopping, I did the poetry book first, and then we had it translated into the music, and now we're doing it at the same time. So sometimes I've listened to music from my producers, these two great brothers out of Mississippi, out of California. They're originally from Mississippi, and my sister producer, she's our producer as well, Tynesha out of the Bronx, great Black woman producer. Not enough sisters get credit for being producers. She's an amazing singer, vocals, all that, you know. And we're coming in 2026 with this new, both the album and the book will drop at the same time. Yeah, I'm
That's so
excited.
dope.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
so
excited
dope.
about it. Yeah.
I love how you nourish your creativity, right? Because you have the intellect, you have historical context when you do your speeches all over the world, but you never leave out the artistry. You know, the artistry is really important. And tell me if I'm right about this, Kevin. Speaking about you doing journalism as a means just to make money. Tell me if I got this right. We go back so far, but as far as I remember, your first job was with the Amsterdam News as a journalist. Is that right?
No, it's actually there was a newspaper before that called the Black American that was actually owned by a Trinidadian
Ah,
brother.
okay,
That was right near Penn Station in Manhattan in New York City. And
okay,
I was 20 years old and I would commute from Rutgers in New Jersey to like 2 or 3 times a week to write for the Black American newspaper. I was getting like $20, $25 an article, and that was like a lot of money to me. I was happy. And my first article that I ever wrote professionally was actually about the brothers who got attacked in Howard Beach, Queens. That's the first article I ever wrote. Yeah,
okay,
man.
okay,
And so I
okay.
mean, because right from the very beginning, I knew that I had to, because I was inspired by people like Baraka and Richard Wright, people like that, and Malcolm, you know, reading his autobiography. I knew I had to be an activist and a writer. It was like there was no separation. I was very clear right from the very beginning, Kev. These are both your roles. And you know, Steve Jackson, So Sister Soldier, people will tell you when we would be in protests in New York City. And I would be in the middle of the protest. I'd be helping to organize the protest, but I always had my little notepad at the same time writing
I
stuff
remember.
down.
I
Yeah, man.
remember.
So
I remember.
I was always doing both. Shout out to the Amsterdam News because and Eleanor Tatum, because I did write for them and they gave me a lot of love. And I'm actually going to host their live stream of the mayoral election results next month
Nice,
up at the
nice.
headquarters in Harlem. So it's a full circle moment. I said to Eleanor, you know, it'd be my honor to do it because if it wasn't for the Black press, City Sun, Black American,
Yep.
Caribbean newspaper, Amsterdam News, Afro-American newspaper, I wrote for them, and many other Black publications, Black-owned publications. You know, Essence at the time was Black-owned, Ebony. I mean, I wrote for a lot of places because I was very clear. I was very clear from the very beginning. I'm a Black writer, not a writer who happens to be Black. There was no
Yes.
conflict. Like I was clear what I was here for, and it was to make
Yeah.
sure I tell the stories of our people. Yeah,
And Kevin, to your point, that's why we do Black Media Shout Out. You know,
yeah,
because we have people watching, as you've heard me say, from literally all over the globe, and this as an opportunity to bring forth, you know, what is dear to us, what comes naturally,
yeah.
is you know for that reason. I remember the City Sun. I remember the Daily Challenge.
The
You
Daily
know,
Challenge. Go for them too.
yeah, yeah,
Big, it
exactly.
was Big Red News. Remember that newspaper too, out
I
of
do.
Brooklyn? Wow.
Yeah,
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 yeah, yeah,
yeah. And with the Amsterdam News being what 115 years old, founded in
yeah.
1909, it's not even the oldest. Isn't the one in Chicago, the Black newspaper in Chicago, is the
Chicago
oldest?
Defender. I'm not sure. The Chicago
I think
Defender.
that might be older. But either way, 100 and anything years old is major.
That's
You know what I
gangster.
mean?
And I
Yeah.
mean, you know, I was privileged to work inside the building as a young writer. I got to shout out Herb Boyd, you know, because he
Yes.
one of the folks that mentored me. He taught me an invaluable lesson early on. He said, "Man, you know, when you write something on a subject, that you can remix it, recycle it, and do it in another way somewhere else." And I always thought about that, like, you know, this doesn't be the last time you write about the subject matter. But for me, it was also just being in the building and being able to go through old newspapers, old photographs. And the beautiful thing about working for a Black newspaper the way I did, that's where I learned how to edit. That's how I learned. I used to have to take pictures myself. I had to create headlines at times. You do everything, but these are skill sets that I treasure to this day. And so a lot of times people hit me up and say, "Kev, I want an internship in media, Black young people." And I'm like, "Man, go to a Black newspaper. You'll be able to do everything. You know, you'll get to these other places if that's what your goal is, but don't knock our media. Don't knock our spaces. Those spaces are historic and they're invaluable to I mean, there's no Grammy nomination, there's no 16 books if I didn't have the experience of writing for Black newspapers. You know, that's the
Right.
fact. Yeah.
Right. And that's why we wanted to shout out Ashley Allison and,
Yes,
and her
yes,
boldness. Man, I'm just giddy right now. You know
yes.
what I mean? That the root is returning to Black
It's dope.
ownership. Yeah, yeah,
It's so I mean, shout out to what Marc is doing. I've been to Uncle Bobby's for a book signing in Philadelphia. That's why shout out to Sister's place and Sister Corey and her mother in Harlem.
yes,
I actively, people always say to me, Kev, you gonna buy Black? I'm like, man, I've been buying Black since I was at least 18 years old. But once I became aware, conscious, woke, as we say, my doctor's Black, my dentist is Black. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Like, I consciously support Black businesses. So I don't need some movement to tell me what to do. I know what to do,
right,
but
right,
at the same time, I'm so clear if someone says they don't support us, and when we put so much dollars into their space like Target, we should be boycotting Target. That's why Target is suffering right now, because like you and I know that it's just like there's no Target without us renaming Target Target. There's no Mickey D's without us renaming McDonald's Mickey D's. There's no BK
right.
without us renaming Burger King BK. And so we know what Black people have historically done for all these businesses, and for them to turn their backs on us is important. So I believe that, let's support our businesses, our initiatives. I mean, you mentioned my wife, she's very much, man, when I first met her, April, you appreciate her whole jacket was just Black everything. It was like, here's Angela Davis, here's Asada, here's Black books, here's Toni Morrison. I was like, you like blackity black. She's like, oh yeah, I support. I mean, she supports Black designers, fashion people, Black folks who make.
Yeah,
I've learned so much from my wife. She's like, here's the Black person who makes purses. I was like, this is gangster. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But
yeah,
it can't just be when Breonna Taylor, George Floyd gets killed. It can't just be when, DEI is being attacked. This needs to be a consistent part of our value system that we are going to support. And people will try, if Black folks who are insecure, or you have racists who say, well, that's racist, reverse racism. No, because anytime you go to, you can just look online, you'll see, well, here's things that are happening for the Jewish community, for the Chinese community, for the Italian American community, for the Polish community. You can go down a list of things. We should never be apologetic like other people of supporting our own. That makes us powerful, because what are we bringing to the table of the human family if we don't have anything, if we're not supporting anything? So I'm very conscious of, let me not just throw my money away to someone else the moment I get some cash in my pocket. No way, no way, no way,
yeah,
no way. We can't do that,
yeah. And it's not even it is the artistry, the products that you create, but you and I have done, I have to say, some amazing work together in collaboration. We
Yeah.
did Hip Hop Speaks, we did Help Haiti, just so many things that we've done in collaboration and honorable partnership. I don't know that there's an event that you've done, whether I was hands-on or not, that I haven't promoted. I can't remember a time when you haven't supported me. My first trip to Africa was because I was on my way from Brooklyn to Atlanta to see my mother. This was like 10 years ago, little bit
Right.
more than 10 years. And we were about to take off. You called, and I was like, oh, Kevin's calling. And we're about to take off. He's like, you want to go to Africa? You want to go to Nigeria? I'm like, what? And I was like, yeah, but I'm about to take off. He's like, call me when you land. And I went to the American University
And
and yoga.
and
Yeah,
yeah,
Dorsey,
Dorsey Spencer,
Dorsey,
my frat brother, Dr.
Doctor
Dorsey Spencer.
Dorsey, Mr. Shout out to him. It was a magical time, and people were like, "This is your first time going to the continent?" I was like, "Yeah, shut up," but thanks to you, like you have been so tremendously supportive of me as a friend of Aquila Work Songs,
Thank
and it's a long list of things where you have connected.
Well, I
And
mean, two of my favorite moment is what we did around Hurricane Katrina in New York. We talk about it periodically. For those who don't know, when Katrina was happening, I don't think I even had my cable on, April. I'm pretty sure I didn't. I just hear, of course, as Brooklyn and New York people, you're hearing like, yo, there's something happening with Black people in New Orleans, the weather, da, da, da. And I had just been at the Essence Music Festival that summer. That's actually the last time I've been to the Essence Music Festival, 2005, when Katrina happened, ironically. And, April and I did what we do. Like, yo, Kev, we got to do something. And so we just came together. We threw a party with a purpose. I don't know how to describe it, at Canal Room, which was like the hottest club in New York at that time, and right in Chinatown on Canal Street, off the Canal Street. And am I right, April? It felt like hundreds upon hundreds of people showed up. It was
yeah,
crazy.
Yeah.
with donations for the people of the Gulf Coast. You know what I mean?
Exactly. It was pretty amazing. And you know, you use your influence and your stature for good, right? And it is always my honor to bring whatever skills and talents that I have, you know, to the movement. That we're doing the relief movement, and it's not about stuff only in New York. For a number of years you were doing the clothing drive. You know what I mean? Like it's just so much generosity. So thank you for being the model of
Thank
activism,
you.
that you have
Well,
been.
I feel the same way about you. I mean, you give to our communities for a long time, and I mean, this is what we were raised up in the movement. We basically were raised up in the movement, and this
Yeah.
is what it is. And this is why, like, when stuff like happens right now, I mean, while it's sad to me where we are in the country, I feel like we were made for this because we've been doing this work for so long, so we know how to navigate. How do we move through this now? You know what I'm saying? This
Yeah,
particular period. You know what I mean?
for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
What would you say? We don't want to take your whole Saturday, but what would you
No, I'm
say?
fine. I'm good, April. I'm good if y'all are
Okay,
good. Yeah.
good, good. No, we're good. We're good. Um, do you notice a difference? Um, Not in the spirit of activism, Kevin, but in how activism is played out. Again, not the spirit of it, but how activism is played out amongst
Mm,
whatever age. I don't want to be ages here, be it the
okay.
20-year-olds or the 60-year-olds. But because of social media,
Yeah.
because of the onslaught of information, do you notice a difference in how the activism is manifesting?
Well,
What
let
do
me answer. Sorry. Let me answer it this way. One, I think that it's clear we can't turn back from all the technology. Like, I think about it now, how like this morning, literally, I was promoting our big event in Minneapolis and Columbus that are coming up with the film and community conversation. Years ago, that would have been a flyer. I have vivid memories of myself and Sister Soldier and other young people literally going from subway car to subway car in New York City with flyers promoting events.
Yes,
We probably did it with Hip Hop Speaks in the early 2000s. Now that I think about it as
yes,
well, we had
yes,
flyers, physical flyers. So the magical thing about social media is created this space across all these platforms, Blue Sky, Instagram, all of it, where you can promote stuff instantly in seconds in ways we couldn't have imagined. The downside, when I think about the spirit of activism now, and I just had this conversation with a brother friend of mine. I don't want to say what his name is or what state he's from, but he's a leader. He's an important leader in his community. He does not read. He does not read. And I could tell he didn't read because he was posting fellow so-called leaders or activists who also don't read because they were just saying anything. You know what I mean? And so part of the problem, just like we have the prison industrial complex, April, with what has happened to Black and brown people and bodies in this country, for the last several decades, we have something I call the celebrity industrial complex, where everyone
whoa,
wants to be a celebrity. It's the celebrity industrial complex. And so whether you are a social media influencer who just you just got a whole bunch of followers because you just say all kinds of stuff that's going to get eyeballs, or you're an activist, everyone wants to be famous. Bell Hooks warned me when Bell Hooks was alive, one of my great mentors. She said to me, Kevin, part of the problem in America is that people are addicted to the fame plantation. People are addicted to the fame plantation. And I think the combination of reality TV, which I was a part of with the very first season of MTV's The Real World, but I didn't do it because I wanted to be famous. I did it because I had been mentored by Sister Soldier as an older student when I was at Rutgers University. She was an older student than me. And I saw that every time Soldier was on TV, she got speaking engagements. So what I thought about was like, well, I'm going to get some speeches out of this, some college bookings out of it. Had no idea that it would become an industry that has transformed popular culture, including TV. Social media is just another version of reality TV. Let's be real about it. When you see Cardi B and Nicki Minaj arguing with each other the last week or so on social media, that's love and hip hop. That's on TV. That's the same thing on TV. That's what the real world ended up becoming. And that's why someone like Donald Trump, who is unread, undereducated, et cetera, is the president of the United States, because there's also been a severe dumbing down in this country across the board. And the people who can ill afford to be dumbed down the most are us as Black people, as people of color. And certainly what has happened, I believe, April, is some people have used Blackness and so-called activism as a way to get put on to get a bag of money. I'm not going to say any names, But, you know, when you see people out there protesting and all of a sudden they have all this money coming in, then you hear these stories about people buying houses, mansions, taking fancy trips, sending their kids to private schools. I'm looking at people like you and I, you know, I'm like, yo, I have a Timex watch. The only jewelry I have is this Ankh and cross around my neck. You feel what I'm saying? And then some African stuff because I'm African centered. You know what I mean? I got a few pieces of art on the wall. You can see around me. There's Shirley Chisholm behind me, for example. You know what I'm saying? You know, and I've never owned a car in my life. I can drive. I do drive. But I'm like, I made a conscious decision. Like, Kevin, this is your life as an activist. It's going to be a very simple life, a minimalist life. This is not about fame. This is not about fortune. I don't want to be broke and poor all the time. But I'm also clear. I don't want to ever appear to be benefiting off the people. Dr. King and Malcolm X died broke. I'm not saying we should die broke, but one of the things I admire about both of them is that they had integrity when it came to money. For example, when Dr. King got the Nobel Peace Prize, when he was only 34 years old, he was already married to Coretta Scott King. They already had their 4 children. That prize money was the equivalent of at least $100,000 back then. Rather than make it look like he was benefiting from the movement, the civil rights movement, he donated every penny of that prize money back to the movement. That's the difference between then and now. And so, yeah, that's the part of it for me. People are not reading. What I kept saying to the brother, by the time that conversation was over with this brother, and he's not someone who's 20 years old. I was on this conversation with April. He's 50 years old. I said, you have to read A People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn. If you're going to talk about America, you have to read Lerone Bennett's Before the Mayflower. These are 2 basic historical texts so you can understand what you're talking about. So you're not just making stuff up based on raw emotion, just based on rage, anger. You actually can connect the dots. That's how you become a critical thinker. Leaders are readers. Leaders are readers. Leaders are readers. You know, my wife and I, we literally go to used bookstores, new bookstores. We are constantly reading something. We're constantly sharing stuff with each other. We both go down rabbit holes. We're always researching stuff. This is before we even knew each other. But we're like, what brought us together? A book. She reviewed one of my books. And then I saw that she reviewed books. And that actually excited me. I was like, man, this is dope. That's how we met. Books. And so what do I think about these times? I think it's beautiful that social media is a space where people can use their voices, but I read a lot of the posts. You know, I don't respond to things. I don't get in debates with people on social media, but I'm like, you're not reading. And you don't even realize that when you don't read, you end up saying the same thing we've heard 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, because you're not creating any new analysis of this stuff. You talk about our film on Black manhood, you know, is it, again, a perfect film? No. But one of the things we thought about, I better make sure the difference between Kevin Powell, who showed up for Byron Hurt's film, I'm a Man, back in the 1990s, my thinking was where it was back then. And since then, I have digested Audre Lorde, Nikki Giovanni, Maya Angelou, Angela Davis, Bell Hooks, so many different Black women writers. So Black women thinkers informed my thinking and what goes into When We Free the World. Whereas 30 years ago, you more than likely would have heard me referencing mostly Black male thinkers. That's the difference.
Mm-hmm.
I had to read. I had to keep growing. That's where it shifts, you know. And I think that we don't think about that, April. Like reading is transformative. And if you don't like to read, listen, audiobooks, or you had trouble reading, audiobooks. Podcasts like this are highly informative. Your show, Marc Lamont Hill's show, you know, what Joy Reid is doing, you know, we need to absorb information in a way that makes sense. And the thing I got when I was in college, I just want to say this last piece. I discovered the E185 section of the library because I did a work study job at Rutgers. And so that's where all the Black books were. And I started reading with a sense of purpose. Okay, Malcolm X keeps talking about slavery. I better get a working knowledge of ancient Africa and the enslavement of my ancestors and how that affected us. Okay, I need to get a working knowledge of segregation. Now I need to get a working knowledge of the Civil Rights Movement / the Black Power Movement / the Black Liberation Movement. Okay, I need to understand what Black music is. I need to read Amiri Baraka's book, Blues People. Why did he write a book called Blues People? You know what I mean? I need to understand, you know, all of this that we call Blackness in America, in the West Indies, you know, Black people in Canada, Black people in Europe, Black people in Africa, Black people in Latin America. Why do you have an island like Hispaniola where half of it speaks Spanish, Dominicans, the other half speaks French, Creole and French, Haitians? And why does one side understand they're Black, the Haitians, and the other side, I'm not Black? Where does that come from? You don't understand any of that, April, you know, if you don't read.
Right.
If you don't read, you know, if you don't read.
And the problem that I agree with everything that you said. And I would add, like, what we're suffering from is the lack of critical thinking, to your point, right?
Yeah.
Ras Baraka had some piece where he's like it's not enough to read the headlines. Like, people read the headlines and then they're off You know what I mean? They're often like they got the headlines. There's no depth. But Kevin, for real talk, that's why we call this show Ascending. Our objective is to get to the root of a matter
Yes.
beneath what the eyes see.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work and there's a world underneath the surface.
That's
So
right.
our objective is to get to the root of a matter, the part that is not obvious, to live in that space, to get to the root of a matter and then break ground. Right? Like that's the whole point.
You know, if I could use this metaphor for a second, this analogy for a second, I have a friend who's bringing her 13-year-old niece from Ohio to New York City. Niece will be here for the first time in a couple of days, and they're asking me what to see. And, you know, if you only go see the Statue of Liberty or the 9/11 Memorial, which you should have the right to do, and you don't, as a Black person or any person who has any sense of humanity, go visit the African burial ground as well, which is also in Lower Manhattan, that's part of the problem. You know what I mean? If you don't understand that there's no Manhattan without the history of Black people in Manhattan, read James Weldon Johnson's book, Black Manhattan. Black people literally built the economic infrastructure of New York City, of this entire country. You know, if you're one of those people saying that this country was built on the backs of immigrants, and you put a period at the end of it, and you don't start the sentence by saying this country was stolen from indigenous people, who y'all call Indians and Native Americans. African people were kidnapped from Africa and brought here to build this country for free for at least 246 years, from 1619 to 1865. If you don't have that part of the conversation, and oh, by the way, then immigrants, you know, first European immigrants, but don't forget there was also Chinese immigrants who laid things like the railroad tracks in this country, and then they were kicked out of the country. You know what I mean? We can go through a whole bunch of stuff. Well, Kevin, how do you know this stuff? Because I read voraciously. And I connect the dots, and you begin to realize, wait a minute, the way they treated those immigrants in movies like Martin Scorsese's Gangs of New York. We hate the Irish, we hate the Italians. At some point, they went from being Irish and Italian to becoming white, and then they started doing to other people what has been done to them. You feel where I'm going with this? You know what I mean? And so while we're wilding out on Latinx immigrants and Black immigrants, African ones as well as West Indian ones, because the Haitians in Springfield, Ohio, where I've been the last couple of months a few times, I mean, you talk to folks there who are both Democrat, Republican, Black and white, they'll say this community is thriving in certain ways because of these Haitian immigrants. And so all of it is important, and we have to know who we are. The one thing I got out of my education early on, I have to know my African self. That is primary, mandatory, because I was taught to hate myself the first 18 years of my life, April Silver, and everyone listening, because I was brainwashed into believing that a good education, a great education, was simply memorizing stuff and giving it back to the teacher and getting a good grade. While my education, K through 12, 13 years, 18 years of my life, Black people were slaves, was reduced to a couple of paragraphs. I learned nothing about Harriet Tubman, nothing about Frederick Douglass, nothing about anything. I didn't even learn about the Civil Rights Movement. My social studies or history classes would always end after World War II, as if and here we are, we're literally born at the end of the Civil Rights Movement, you and I. I learned nothing. Yeah. And so I grew up deeply self-hating. I'm not even a dark-skinned Black person, but I thought that Black was ugly. Noses, lips, hair texture a certain way was all ugly, because that's what I was brainwashed to believing. Jesus was white. All our heroes like Superman were white. Santa Claus was white. Everything good was white. Anything bad was Black. And when I started reading, it transformed my life. I didn't even know that I could be a writer, April, until I discovered Black writers in college. I didn't even know that Black people could be writers. That's why I make it a point to go to not just colleges, but to high schools, to grade schools. I'm about to do something with the Weeksville School here in Brooklyn, where we're from. You know, I'm going to be working with 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, teaching them poetry in the next couple of weeks. You see what I'm saying? Because they need to see a living, breathing Black writer. And I'm going to introduce to them Sonia Sanchez and Nikki Giovanni and Baraka and people like that. That's what I'm going to do, because those examples matter. And so when I think about, you know, with your original question, what do I think about the state of activism? If you're not constantly trying to grow, learn, evolve as a leader, as an activist, then you're actually doing a disservice to the people you claim to be representing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm moved to ask you, and that profound contribution, I'm moved to ask about something beyond the intellect. I'm moved to ask about humility and integrity. Because there's so much, the badge of honor is that which we can quantify. The badge of honor is that you have tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or 1.5 million followers on social media. The badge of honor is how many gigs, and that you know, you no longer getting $500 to speak. Now you getting 20,000 and 40,000. The badge of honor for many in the activist community is that you were on CNN versus ascending. Whatever, these are quantifiable badges of honor that people live by. And you and I have had plenty of conversations about that which is not quantifiable, that which is more enduring, which are the principles of humility and integrity. Can you speak to that?
Whew. Well, if you don't learn humility, you will be humbled over and over again by life.
That part.
You know, that's the first thing. What is humility to me, April Silver? Humility to me is every single day when I am granted permission and the blessing of having a breath and being able to be awake, alive. I thank the divine, I thank the ancestors for that day. I didn't always do that, but the last several years I started doing it because I value life in a different way. I value people in a different way. And because I've been beat down and nearly broken several times, I've been traumatized in my life. We talk about generational traumas often now in these times. We have a vocabulary, right? But I also have traumatized people, you know, which I thank goodness for my spiritual work and therapy, and constantly being in conversation about what does healing look like? What does healing look like? What does healing look like? I think that healing and humility are inextricably linked, April Silver. I never said that before, but I'm saying it here right now. I think that healing and humility are inextricably linked. When you realize that you are a vessel that is a perpetual work in progress, you will bow down at the feet of a healing deity, a healing ancestor, and understand that the only way you're going to truly be healed if you're humble enough to acknowledge you've been in pain and you may have caused other people pain. You know what I mean? And so I think about it like that now, April Silver. I think about it like that. Like, you know, I was at one of my lowest points 5 years ago. Divorce, second bankruptcy, eviction notices, middle of COVID. Steve Jackson's son, one of my closest friends, Tyreek, committed suicide. But I still, it humbled me so much. I believe it opened up the possibility, because I sat there in that COVID space by myself for months and months and months, praying, meditating, crying a lot, thinking I should check myself into a mental institution. That's how bad it got. I ain't had no money for it, so I couldn't do that. But I just opened up and I did a lot of reflecting. What is humility? The ability to go back inside yourself. Like, who am I? And out of all of that happened, I was gifted my wife. And I had nothing. You know what I mean? Humility is knowing that everything can be taken away instantly, but who are you when everything's gone?
Real talk.
So I feel blessed. And I think that, you know, listen, I've been on MTV. I went to college. I'm a first generation college student. I've been at Vibe magazine. I've interviewed people like Tupac Shakur, General Colin Powell, Michael B. Jordan, Stacey Abrams. I've interviewed, you know, Dave Chappelle. The list is endless of famous people I've interviewed. I've been around all kinds of famous people. I've been around all kinds of money. I've been in homes of billionaires. I've traveled all 50 states in this country. I've been to 5 of the 7 continents. I've been nominated for a Grammy. I got these 16 books. I've been in all kinds of TV programs. It doesn't mean anything if you don't love yourself, you don't love your people, and you're not trying to do something to help others. It doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? So I think about that every day. I don't mean to get emotional here, but it's just like, I don't take for granted, you know, why I'm here now. It's to serve. And it's to serve with humility. I say thank you to everyone. I appreciate you. You know, we can learn some things from people from the South. You know, when I go to the West Indies, how people acknowledge each other. Thank you. When I went to Jamaica, I borrowed some money and got to Jamaica in the middle of COVID. I just watched how they moved in the West Indies differently from how we moved in America. Black people in America, not just black folks, all kinds of people fighting over toilet paper, sharing it in Jamaica. That's what I remember. Yeah, that's humility. If I got something, you got something. If April got something, she shares with me. If Kevin got something, he gonna make sure April gets something. That's humility. And I think that unfortunately what has happened with the celebrity industrial complex and this addiction to fame and social media and eyeballs and likes is people have lost sense of the humanity, April. When you lose sense of your humanity, there's no humility. When you lose sense of your humanity, there's no humility. You know, when you lose sense of your Africanness, your African self, or you've never had it, there's no humility. You know, I think about our ancestors, man. I'm not here if my mother didn't have an 8th grade education. I'm not here if my grandmother, her mother could not read or write, which is a fact. I'm not here if before that they were the first people who were going through segregation. Before that, my ancestors were enslaved people. Before that, they were kidnapped. I don't know. I can't even imagine being on a slave ship. I can't even imagine some of us who jumped off those slave ships, April. I'm not going to Brazil. I'm not going to Barbados or Jamaica. I'm not going to South Carolina or Georgia. I'm going to jump off this ship and just take my chances in the ocean. That's what I'm going to do. That's who we come from, April. That's who we come from. You know what I mean? That's where we're going to come from. You know, you don't want us here. We're going to build our own Black institutions, our own Black colleges like Howard, our own Black everything. That's who we come from. That's what humility. When you know that, that's where the humility comes from. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Marcus Garvey's leading the biggest mass movement in this country. He came from Jamaica in the West Indies to America. He's in places like Harlem. He's influencing people like a young child named Malcolm Little, who became Malcolm X. They put him in prison. How dare I be arrogant? You know what I'm saying? Fannie Lou Hamer was people like sisters like Fannie Lou Hamer sterilized. You know what I mean? Beat upside the head. But she becomes this dynamic spokesperson for us. How dare I be arrogant? How dare we be arrogant? We had Fannie Lou Hamer and Bayard Rustin and all these people, Ella Baker, Assata Shakur. Can you imagine what she went through? Assata Shakur, what she went through, the lies that were told about her, the lies that are still told about her. Can you imagine what she had to go through just to get out? To free herself? The first time I heard Rebel Without a Pause, Chuck D's voice, Public Enemy, he said supportive Chesimard. I didn't know who he was talking about. But when I looked it up, I said, oh my God, she's like a superhero. Yo,
Yeah.
you feel me? A real life.
I
was like, yo.
She was our bookmark for last week. Can I weigh in on the thing about Assata just as a little bit? And thank you. We learned from your film. One of the speakers was like, I don't know if no, I'm getting it mixed up. But vulnerability is not necessarily the phrase. I was about to say thank you for your vulnerability and your honesty, but I think the more appropriate word that I'm learning and I'm breaking down is your transparency, your openness, and your honesty in this moment, right? Your willingness to be raw. So I appreciate that. That's how I know you. For those who are meeting you maybe for the first time, they get to see the Kevin that I've known, for 30 plus years. So I appreciate that. One of the things that I like about how you do and how we do as friends, we don't talk to each other without acknowledging the divinity in us. The first words out of our mouths, and not just me and you, but with the select group of people who know better, is to say good morning, is to say good afternoon. I tie this back into Assata because she reminds us of what it means to be human, to be free, to be creative, to be joyful. I'm not remembering the words and what speech or whatever, but her thing was, in essence, is to recognize each other's humanity, right?
Yeah.
So when I talk to you for the first time in the day, fix your face to say good morning.
Yeah.
If I'm talking to you for the first time in the day, you can't ask me for shit. You understand what I'm saying? The first thing out of your mouth in a text or phone call or whatever is like, yo, you didn't send that thing last night. I'm waiting for it. Then I have a question about how you see me.
Yes.
That's what capitalists do, right? It's to reduce us, right, to the product making entity that we are, as opposed to the human
That's right.
So it's a longer conversation, but I'm tying in what you're saying in terms of humility, in terms of tying it to Asada, because the one superhero that we've been lifting up is the one that's told us you have got to recognize the humanity in people and treat each other that way. Can we be free enough to say good morning without barking orders? Can we be free enough to do that?
Wow.
Can
Yeah.
we be free enough beyond our activism and our duty and our responsibility as community organizers or as whatever? Can we be free enough to say, I see you. Good morning. Good afternoon. Hey, you ain't even got to type all of the characters that go with good morning. Can you say hi? I got that from my father. I didn't get that from Asada, but she reinforced it. My father used to say,
Yeah.
you talking to me and then say good morning? My father's from Suffolk, Virginia. Shout out to the Silvers and everybody, all of the descendants of Maddie Mabry. And my mother's the same way. You speak. Anyway, I could go
No.
on, but you opened me up because you reinforced who I know you to be and what I believe might be missing from a lot of relationships.
I don't want to take credit for this because my wife is definitely smarter than I am. And she always talks about how we have to, what are we modeling? What are we modeling as a people? You know, she asked two questions that I think are very profound. She asked me once, do you think that Black people can ever heal? And what are we modeling? I do. I just think it's a process and it has to be serious around our healing work, you know, and it has to be conversations like this. I mean, I do it. I challenge people like, hey, what happened to good morning, good day? How are you? Do you care? Or is this just a transaction? Is this just transactional? You know what I mean? Because in full disclosure, it was said to me, because especially if you're like in certain, I kind of put, when we say the industry, people tend to think music or entertainment. I think the industry is everything. It's corporate, entertainment, activism, nonprofit. It's just one big entity, you know what I'm saying, where people there's no manners, there's no basic respect at times. And I agree with you. What are we modeling? And I think it's directly tied to our healing, because if you don't care enough about me to ask, how am I doing? That says a lot about who you are. You know what I mean?
And let me put this in there. It's easy to forget, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you're in a certain rhythm with somebody, working on the project, doing whatever. It's easy to forget. I am not casting away and saying that you have no good character if you never say good morning. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
I'm saying, to your point, we can model in the little small interaction. We can have micro examples of what we believe freedom and courtesy and humanity looks like in a little small interaction. Everything doesn't have to be macro,
No.
is what I'm saying. I'm not casting away and condemning people to hell because they didn't say hi.
Yeah.
I'm asking us to just remember that every single solitary vibration matters.
If I can bring it back to Asada Shakur for a second, because I saw, this is why my post was very simple. Read her autobiography. Just read Asada, and you will get the full sense of who this woman was, who this human being was. And in spite of all that she went through, the thing that was most striking to me when I got to the end of the book for the first time, April, was her sense of humanity and her humility. She just wanted to see everyone free. All people should be free.
She meant that.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And I'm like, you know, but when you live in a society that welcomes ignorance, or what I call enthusiastic ignorance, and all of that, and arrogance, even in your ignorance, this is when you get these crazy things being said about people. But put that over there for a second. The other part of it that I think is important, what you're saying, is just, you know, as activists, some of the worst behavior I've seen has been around so-called progressive people, activist people. Like, some of the worst behavior I've ever seen, myself included, in these 40 years. But I've owned it. I'm like, yep, man, I've gone back. I can't even tell you how many people I've gone back and apologized to. Some of them have. I would say most have welcomed it. Some have like, nah, whatever, or just ignore. And you know what, I accept it, because there's people I don't want to have anything to do with ever again. But I don't hold grudges. I don't call people enemies. None of that. The language that I'm like, yo, I'm trying to move with the Sonia Sancho's ethos, which is love. I'm trying to move with that, like love. Because I think also what ends up happening with us as activists, April, to your point, and I should have said this earlier, we spend so much energy about what we're against, what we're fighting. We never think about, well, what is it that I'm actually trying to build? What do I want to create? And that's what my wife and I think about. Like, you know, it's hard, but like, what do we want this to look like? You know, what is healthy Black love? What is a healthy Black marriage? How do we get there? You know what I mean? With all the stuff that we may have brought to this, how do we get there? You know, and that's the crux of it. You know, it's like, and I don't think we're going to get there if we don't know our history. We're not critical thinkers. We're not constantly digesting, you know, all kinds of art and culture. I mean, like, you know, on my walls in front of me, you know, Fanduel Heyman is actually literally in front of me. You know what I'm saying? Shirley Chisholm is right behind me. You know, Muhammad Ali is over there. You feel what I'm saying? It's just like, I'm conscious, like I need to be in a space, not just of Blackness, but of Blackness stuff that was doing something, that was trying to move the needle. You know, and then how do we move the needle in our times? Because these are very unique times for no matter how young or old we are, you know, because Du Bois lived there. He was in his 90s. Cicely Tyson lived into her 90s. Belafonte into her 90s. Cicely Tyson, his 90s, Belafonte. But they were constantly trying to do something to move the needle. What are we doing to move the needle? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And is it rooted in love? 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 Because it's like, you know, I don't want to just talk about what I'm against anymore. It has to be like, ascending. Look at the name of your show. That's called I'm building something. We're creating something. We want to go up. We want to go forward, not stay still, not go backwards. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Words matter.
Yeah.
Words matter. Words matter.
They do. They do. Yeah. They do. Spiritual knowledge, spiritual wisdom, sacred texts, and Maya Angelou tell us that words are beings. They vibrate. They have energy. This is not anything new, right? They are vessels. They carry energy. They carry energy. My friend, I wanna go to the comments. I want to curate the comments. We have a number of people in the comments. If you could stay with us for just a little while.
I'm good.
I want to remind people you are
watching. Let me see what time my baseball game comes up, but I'm good.
You are watching Ascending. We are here every week, every Saturday at 11. Yep. This is episode number 36, and we are talking to my dear friend Kevin Powell, an amazing human being. So if you're watching on Marc Lamont Hill's Twitter channel, thank you. And please switch over to YouTube. That is a very tangible way, watching this on YouTube, that you can support this independent media movement that Marc has built, of which I'm very happy to be your host for 36 weeks. We are here every Saturday at 11.
That's incredible. 36 episodes already?
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
We're every week live, no less. Live.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So the Ascending playlist, we're going to remind everybody to look at the Ascending playlist. You know, Kevin, you know, we've interviewed Sonia Sanchez was our second interview. We've interviewed Mayor Ras Baraka. We have Malik Yoba coming on, and we had a glitch, so he's going to come back. And we had people whose work nobody knew, not nobody, but people didn't know. So we go from the popular to the people who are on the ground doing the work. And
sorry, I'm hungry.
You know, I was about to chant Odu. When I see the banana, there's a Odu in Ifa that speaks about the healing properties of the banana. So when I saw the banana, I immediately was about to chant the Odu. All of my people in the Orisha Ifa tradition.
Sorry, I just needed to take a bite real quick. I'm sorry.
No. Let the healing properties of the banana do its thing. So let's go to the comments real quickly, just to do a couple of curated ones. We're not going to get to all of them. And comments and questions, so just bear with us. This is important. K-Town Lady 213 says, hit the like button. Yes, that matters. While you're watching on YouTube or whatever, share this, hit the like button. That really, really matters. So thank you for that reminder.
Is that Koreatown in Los Angeles? K-Town 213? It sounds like
Right. That looks like it might be right. 213.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, could be. Let us know in the comments. Here's a question for you from Love Wise. What a dope handle. Love Wise.
Mm-hmm.
Peace and blessings. Where can I watch the documentary? That's a question for you, Kevin.
No, I'm kidding. You know what? We're actually going to be doing, I can say it here. I'm telling you a lot of stuff here because you're my sister and friend.
Yay.
Anyone else? We're going to be partnering with GATHR, just the way Byron Hurt just did, just do some virtual screenings of the film this year. So we'll be announcing it on I'm on social media platforms. People can follow me on any social media platform if they just type in poet Kevin Powell, and you'll find me on LinkedIn, on Blue Sky, Instagram, everywhere, Facebook, anywhere. I purposely changed everything to poet Kevin Powell. So there'll be virtual screenings coming up. Yeah.
Let's see. And the guys are going to put that in the chat as well. So thank you to Love Wise. We're going to put in the chat, and I'm going to say it out loud for those who are listening and not watching. Poet Kevin Powell is where you can follow Kevin Powell on all social media. We have Kali JNS Nakti University. Please forgive me if I butchered that name, but she says, we are here to serve and be served. Law of reciprocation. I messed up that word.
Reciprocation. Yep.
Oh, sorry. Duh. Thank you, Kevin. During doing our war with grace, love, and willingness to grow, we appreciate your comment. We have some others. We have, let's see, getting to the root for sure. We had a question for you.
Okay.
Or here's a comment. People get their news from social media, not an understanding of the news, but the actual information. The algorithm is not your friend. Let's say that part. Thank you, Reggie Jacks, for coming back to Ascending. The algorithm is not your friend. Yes, that's for the part when we were talking about social media. We have something else here from My Mic Now Sounds Nice, which is a podcast on YouTube that everybody should be watching.
Oh, that's
My
dope.
Mic Sounds Nice. I know, right? As you travel the country, what has surprised you most during your group discussions, presumably relating to the film? So that's a question for you.
And just not the film. Like, one of the things I've become conscious of, because I've been speaking in public for a long time, is making it a safe space where people feel comfortable to share what they're feeling. I'll give you an example. And we were in Boston at the Science Museum. Shout out to the Science Museum in Boston a couple of weeks back, and we showed the film. And I don't want to give the way to a film, but I can say this: When We Free the World deals with the question, what is a man? We deal with fatherhood. We deal with mental health. We deal with all forms of violence. We also deal with Black males who may have survived childhood sexual abuse. We found brothers who were willing to talk about it on camera, and that was actually hard, April. There was a lot of cats brothers who said to me privately, yeah, man, I'm a survivor, but I don't want to talk about that. You know, I was like, cool. You know what I mean? And what happened in Boston was really touching. It was a young brother named Chad. He said that he had been sexually assaulted as a 12-year-old, and this film gave him the courage to speak about it. And we actually formed a circle around him. I can remember, I'm visualizing right now where we allowed the brother to share, and then we said, man, we got you. You know what I mean? And I'll say this: the film, these group discussions has led to what we're going to be doing in 2026. We're going to definitely bring the film to streaming. It'll definitely be there. People will be able to get the study guide, access the website, the soundtrack and stuff. But we decided to turn the film into one-day manhood conferences. We actually created it already, April.
Wow.
And actually, Boston's going to be our first stop we're going to go back to, because we realized that showing the film and having a conversation is cool, but let's turn it into a full one-day summit where we have these workshops where everyone comes to the same workshop, like the United Nations, like a plenary session throughout the day, where we can share information, ideas, and resources. We'll have mental health experts there, social workers there, people
That's
who are
how
local.
we used to do, right? With Hip Hop Speaks and all of the things. We had the social, I'm sorry, the psychologists and such. I interrupted you, but keep going. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just remixing what we did. You're absolutely right. because you realize it's needed. And there's also a way to say to folks, you know, if you're in Columbus, Ohio, or Minneapolis, Minnesota, you have local entities here. Because, as you know, here in New York, where we're from, a lot of times people say, well, there's no Black leaders, there's no this, no that. I'm like, here they are. It's a resource. And so we feel like this is an excellent opportunity to become a clearinghouse of information. And one thing that Evangeline, my wife, has stressed too, you know, people are like, well, is this just for men? No, actually, the whole community is coming to these things because we need to have these conversations. Are there spaces that men should be in? Folks who identify as men should be in? Sure. Just like there should be spaces for sisters, for women. Sure. Or if you're non-gender conforming, whatever your gender identity or identities are, you should be able to be in those spaces with people who are like you, no matter how you identify yourself. But we feel like these conversations are so important because some of the things that comes up in the group discussions is that Black women can't raise Black men to be Black boys to be men. And I'm like, that's wrong because my mother raised me to be a man. I am a vegan, non-drug taking, non-alcoholic. I'm married, loving relationship. I'm a business owner, yada, yada, yada. So we got to stop saying stuff that is actually not factually true. Now, maybe, is it hard? Is it difficult? Can it be confusing, challenging? Was it that for my mother? Did she have many men to turn to? No. You know what I mean? But there's been a lot of this constantly. We got to get out of this blaming. And Evangeline my wife talks about this in these conversations, just pointing fingers at each other. Like, no, how do we figure out how to move this needle forward together? And how do we get brothers to show? A lot of times brothers will ask me, well, what can I do? I'm like, you need to show up on a consistent basis. You know what I mean? Be a football coach, be a baseball coach, be a mentor, be a role model, do something where people can see you. One of the brothers in our film talks about, he's from Compton, from California. He talks about how his father, who was a sports coach, ended up being like a community father. I'm sure our brother Drake can relate to that. When you coach one person, whether it's even if it's your kid, you end up becoming the father figure for all the kids on the sports team. Absolutely. That's an important role to take on. That's an important thing to acknowledge. And so it doesn't have to be some grand speaker. It doesn't have to be some big protest or rally, but that has come up a lot in the group discussions. What can I do? I'm like, show up on a consistent basis. That's what we can do as men.
Yeah. Do you remember the part, silly question, but the part that was really outstanding for me in the film when Reverend Dr. Herbert Daughtry Sr.,
yes,
the living icon, oh my gosh, the living icon here in Brooklyn.
Yes,
Remember
in his 90s,
yo, man, for real, like living icon. Please look up Reverend Dr. Herbert Daughtry Sr., if you don't already know. But remember the part where he said when his son was little, and I think he was playing, and his son was like, "Dad, I like you." His son was, I think he said his son was like 2 or 3 years old or somewhere around there. And out of the blue, his son was like, "Dad, I like you." And he was like, "You like me? Why do you like me?" And he said, "Because you're paying attention to me.
You watch me do stuff.
You watch me do stuff." Yes. He and Reverend Daughtry was like, "I never forgot that." That was a real live organic moment from this child, from the mouths of babes, as they say.
Let me tell you, you just open up a can of worms, and this is something that we have to think about as men. It's not enough just to say, well, I support you, I pay the bills, I put food on the table. It shouldn't just fall on the women in our community to be the emotional support. And what Reverend Daughtry was saying, I believe as well, is that, you have to be emotionally available. Steve Jackson talks about that, how he showed up for his kids, every sporting event, when they were at plays. He said, even if it was a play was boring, remember he said that part in the film, I'm still clapping and cheering because, I love my children. I'm always kissing my children. That's what we've been taught in society, is that men should not be vulnerable. We should not express emotion. And I think that does a huge disservice for us. It actually it makes us, I believe, not a whole human being. And that's something that has come up a lot in the conversations, because a lot of men in the audience have said, and women have said, my father just wasn't emotional. He just didn't show anything. Think about one of my favorite movies ever with Vidal Davis and Denzel Washington is the film version of Fences. You know what I mean? I love that movie. I watched that whole scene where Denzel as the father is talking to his son. He's like, basically, like you. I don't got to like you. That's the old school way of talking about it. That's actually destructive to our health as that's destructive to us. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You know what I mean? I'm not saying you gotta cry and all the time and things like that, but I just think that we're not robots, y'all. And this is for the males out there. Like, if you say that kind of stuff, you actually don't realize the harm that you're committing, by not being emotional available, not being available. other than I pay the bills. You know, I put food
Yeah.
on the table. That means I can't
Yeah.
even have a conversation with you as a father or father figure. And that's very dangerous. And it's done a lot of harm to a lot of people.
And shout out to the cycle breakers, right?
Yes.
To those who are like, yeah, that's not sufficient.
No.
And
No.
it's popular now to talk about, you know, being vulnerable and transparent and emotionally honest and all this other kind of stuff. There was a whole bunch of people talking about this before the shit got popular.
Yeah.
And they were ridiculed and laughed, and they had no support system. I want to shout out to everybody who saw the damage coming in the 30s, 40s, 50s, or whatever, and they didn't have the space or the support system from decades ago to say this shit ain't right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and they knew they were amongst people who were unevolved.
That's right.
But in their heart, they knew that the way we were treating each other, and the fact that nobody said nothing about Uncle Johnny touching on little Nene, you know, whatever, you know what I mean? Like all of that, all of the, it's just so much. Uncle Johnny touching on little Johnny, for that matter. You know what I mean?
And that's real. Wow.
So it's a whole bunch of people I want to uncover and have us to think about before this shit got popular, before it showed up on your social media news feed. There were people advocating for our evolution, and we ridiculed them.
I mean, let me put it to you like this. Like, I still don't know, because of this thing in our communities, and it's not just Black America, it's all of us, no matter where we come from in the diaspora. I believe it's a result of our oppression and the internalized oppression. Don't talk about stuff. Don't talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I still don't know to this day how my mother and father met. I don't know what happened other than I was conceived. You feel what I'm saying? I don't know if my mother was in love. I don't know anything. You know what I mean? And when I've tried to ask questions, don't ask me no questions. You know,
right?
That's grown folks stuff. I'm like, well, Mom, I'm grown now. You do realize I'm grown. I mean, I'm like good and grown at this point. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, and when we do that to each other, not realizing that we're basically, that perpetuates the generational traumas, because it's like, well, I guess we won't talk about stuff. Or the other extreme, well, you put all your business out there, we'll get accused of it. I'm like, no, some people are talking because they're trying to figure out how to heal, you know, and it may not be the best way at times for some people, but like people are trying to figure it out. Like, how do I heal amidst all this confusion that I've been handed? And then y'all don't want me to ask questions. Y'all don't want me to talk about it. But this is all legacies of slavery, because we weren't allowed or told not to talk about things, not do certain things on those plantations. And literally there are things like the brother says in the beginning of our film. There's a reason why our film has a history chapter first, because we're like, we got to give a context. We can't just say, here's what happened with Black males. Like, how did we get here? Well, it's called our enslavement. It's called this ugly institution that brutalized us, that we still carry around to this day. And people are like, no, Kev, that's in the past. Well, if you're still saying good hair and bad hair in 2025, 26, in the 21st century, you're still favoring lighter complexion people over darker complexion Black folks, when we all are equally beautiful, all body types, all complexions, all noses, all lips, all hair is equally beautiful. You know what I mean?
Well, abilities, to your point, because you had someone who's differently abled.
You purposely have
talk about that. Yeah.
We purposely have, you know, and that's one thing I'm proud of with this film. We purposely have, even people said to us, someone said, what came out of the group discussion, people said, I never heard a short statured Black person ever speak before. I never heard a disabled Black person, differently able Black person ever speak before, until I saw this film. That blew our minds. You know what I mean? That means that we also, what we end up doing is render other people visible, just like we've been rendered invisible unwittingly.
That part.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Kevin, this is important work. And you know, I my producers every week, they're like, don't say you're gonna have them back, April. We know you're excited and you love the work, but we're gonna have a whole series of repeats. But the thing is, I get to flex, right? Because I'm the EP here of the show. So I get to flex.
boss lady.
Boss woman.
Boss woman, pardon me.
Woman is my hashtag.
Yes,
Black boss woman. Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
But GATHR, yes. Well, thank you for shouting out Byron's Byron Hurt film series and fundraiser, because the next one coming up this Thursday, October 9th, is Hazing. We'll give some details at the end. But that's how I know about GATHR, because of Byron. And you know, Byron and I have been, Byron met me or knew about me because of Hip Hop Speaks in 2005.
Wow.
And we've been rocking together ever since. But my point is to, yes, give him a plug for the film series and fundraiser that we've talked about. Byron has been here twice, but GATHR and Neil Williams at GATHR, right?
Yeah,
Is
that's
just
my man.
it's a dope human being.
Yo, do you know his wife's story? He and his wife produced the film Miss Juneteenth, the movie Miss Juneteenth. You got, please, y'all got to watch that movie.
You got to look that up. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
My wife and I watched it on Juneteenth or around Juneteenth earlier this year, and
Uh-huh.
I didn't even know it came out. It came out in the middle of COVID, to be fair, so folks missed it. But it's a really important film about Juneteenth. Y'all should definitely watch that film. And
I don't think I knew that. So that's another layer to the dope human being over there at GATHR. GATHR is a platform for independent for filmmakers to show their works virtually, and that's what Byron is doing. I hear you say you announced it first live here, so we're gonna have you back when it's ready. Of course, I'll be working with your team. Shout out to Billy Johnson Jr. To get the word out about that in 2026. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, it's gonna be a busy year. The film's gonna be on streaming, and the poetry book and album will come out, and whew, a lot going on in 26.
Yeah.
Better than doing nothing though. Gotta do something.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I love how you know how to take your rest, because that's important as well.
Yes.
So final thing. You've seen previous episodes, so you know we do this. The last word for the guest is, what is your ascending moment? What is that breakthrough moment? Even if you said it already and you want to reemphasize, but the breakthrough moment in your life, your career, your relationships, where you broke ground.
Wow. You mean like in my whole life? Wow.
Your whole life, or a section of your life. It could be your career. It could be as a writer, as a poet.
You know what? I'll take it back to what I was saying earlier. 2020. I had to hit rock bottom in ways I couldn't have imagined to be where I'm at right now. That I would say, yeah, because marrying my wife, getting married for the second time to my wife, is easily the most important decision I've ever made in my life. And I wouldn't have been there, wouldn't have gotten there if it wasn't for all the stuff I went through, which felt like rock bottom was actually ascending. Now that I think about it now, I never thought about it like that. April Sarah, that's what it is. Yeah.
Dope.
Yeah. I had to go find myself in new ways. Yeah.
It was time for you to break ground.
Yeah. Or the ground was breaking me. Yo. I used to say back in 2020, if I smoked weed or drank 40s again, it would have been on and popping back then. But thanks for my water. Appreciate my water. Water's good.
Yeah.
You think we say water funny in New York? Because Evangel always makes fun of me. She said, you New Yorkers say water funny. Water. The East Coast people say water.
No, she says it funny. Everybody from Cali says it funny.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like,
and I love her.
I'm like, it's water, it's coffee. What do you want from us? It's water, it's coffee. What?
Yeah, it's a distinction. It's a distinction, and they're wrong.
Yeah. Word.
Kevin Powell, I love you so much.
I love you too. Thank you for having me. I hope y'all chop this. I hope y'all can use this for real.
Please. Oh,
we've
please.
Been on here about 3 hours. Was it 4?
No, okay. It's not been that long. It's not been that long. What you trying to say? No, I'm just saying.
No, it's good. It's good.
No, it's good.
Forgive me. Thank you for letting me eat my banana. I was hungry, so thank you for that.
Jenga did. That's the beginning of the Odu.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's a whole Odu about the healing.
Is that somewhere that's recorded? Because I might want to use some of that on my album. For real. That's dope.
Yeah, it's not that I'm aware of. Okay. But we can make it so. Yeah.
Well, have your people call my people. I mean, well, I am your people, so never mind.
Right. So I'll text you. That's what it is, right? But yeah, everybody, let's put the socials on the social handle on the screen again, where you can find Kevin Powell.
Thank you, everyone on the team. Appreciate y'all.
Yeah, we love you. We'll have you back.
You
have the additional announcements. I'm looking forward to continuing my work with you.
Thank you.
Give my love to your family, to Aunt Kathy, to your mom, to everybody. Yeah, definitely. All
Mom
right,
just
sir.
got some new teeth.
Ah,
I
yo,
should
your
have said
mother's a trip. Your
she's
mother's a
funny.
trip. And all the times that I've met her, she's full of energy. She's full of energy. She be booking. I remember when we went for a birthday a couple of years ago, the restaurant in Jersey, and I was
Mm-hmm.
walking with her. I was like, yo, I gotta keep up. I assumed maybe she was gonna walk slow, but I was like, yo, I gotta keep up.
They're like, we gotta go home and watch our TV shows. They're clear about their agendas. Yeah,
Yeah, for real.
yeah.
For
Thank
real.
you, April, for having me. I appreciate you. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Love you much, fam. All right. All right. That was an amazing show. Thank you for everybody who's still watching. I want to remind people that if you're watching live, thank you. But tell your people that they can watch it later, that they can leave comments later. We got to some of the comments. We didn't get to all of the comments, but we appreciate the comments. And we definitely want you to come back every Saturday. We're going to do a couple of closing out things like we do. We are going to do our outros. We are going to tell you to check out the Ascending playlist. All 36 episodes, including this one, is currently on Marc Lamont Hill Official on YouTube. Check out all of the episodes. But we have a couple of good news reports. The first good news report. Sorry, my bad. You all heard me talk about this amazing human being who passed away, Moitefa Anganza. You all have heard me talk about African voices. You've heard me talk about Real Sisters. Well, there is the Real Sisters family remembers Moitefa Anganza. It's a tribute. It's happening this coming Wednesday, October 8th, 2025 in Manhattan at Riverside Church Theater. I will be there. You can search Eventbrite for all the details. Moitefa Anganza was an auntie, a mother, a friend, a colleague, a comrade to so many of us. She passed away. We honor her by lifting her up. That is a picture of her you see on the screen. The details are on Eventbrite. Shout out to the Real Sisters family. Shout out to African Voices and Carolyn Butts, who we know will be on the show in the not too distant future. On social, we will talk about the Real Sisters Film Festival. Sorry, Real Sisters is a film festival. So we definitely want you to know about that. If you're in New York or in the region, come out to lift up this one woman, Moitefa Anganza, who is an ancestor who did so much to lift us up. She was a dear friend. She was highly supportive of me and Akila Work Songs. And I want to shout out her entire family because they never skipped a beat in supporting good stuff. So we love you. We miss you, Moitefa. So just know about that. We can take that one down because I want to put up Byron Hurt. Follow Byron Hurt. Did I? Okay, yeah. Follow Byron Hurt. Byron Hurt. The subject is the Byron Hurt film series. We've talked about it before. It's a film series and fundraiser. This week we're going to show Hazing. I say we because Akila Work Songs is a co-sponsor of the Byron Hurt film series and fundraiser. We have 3 more films from this prolific documentary filmmaker. October 9th, Thursday, October 9th at 7 p.m. Eastern is the next opportunity for you to spend $14.99 to support this work of the independent documentary filmmaker. You've seen Byron here twice, so he is the one to support. So let's do our next good news report. I know I've been talking about President Dr. Makola Abdullah coming on the show, and he will come to the show. We had this like 3 times. We had to change some dates. But the reason why I want to do this good news report, shout out to Virginia State University, one of my favorite HBCUs, is because VSU, Virginia State University, just announced the opening of the Alfred W. Harris Academic Commons. It is the largest building in the history of Virginia State University. I saw that on LinkedIn this morning. There we go. There's Makola. That's my friend. But more than that, he's an amazing leader at Virginia State University. I'm so excited that we will have him on the show to talk about the state of HBCUs, the future of HBCUs, an amazing leader, and a funny guy who tends to go viral because he's just that relatable. Follow everything Virginia State University. on social media, but that's a flex. That building, what was it? 175,000 square feet or something like that. Guys, check it out. But it's a flex. I saw it this morning and I was like, yo, my good news report has got to include this big deal. But the spirit of the Trojans there at VSU is a thing. And shout out to all my family who are HBCU alum and students, and those particularly that went to Virginia State. All right, we are closing out. I want you all to follow me on social media, April R. Silver. Sorry, guys, I was bumping heads with you. Well, you can bring me to speak at your event as well. Contact Drake at A Killer Work Songs, and then we can show everybody my socials, April R. Silver and A Killer Work Songs. I want to hear from you in the comments or social, DM me or whatever. I'm open because y'all can see I'm getting excited. Up next, episode 37 is Dr. Fatima Turner. So definitely come out because we're going to talk to this trailblazer, the owner of Inner City Cafe. She's a PhD. She is doing amazing. Well, I met her through Marc, actually, and she's a very esteemed member of the Akila Work Songs family. So she's going to come back. She's going to come to the show next Saturday. So tell your people. Every Saturday live, every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, we are here on Ascending. We will see you in the comments, and we actually want you to subscribe to the channel as well and check out the playlist. Until next time, stay up.